thanks for coming down today. For those of you who don't know me already, I'm Casey Blodgett. I'm the one who emails you constantly. I'm the club sports coordinator here at Harvard, so let me know if you have any questions afterwards or any issues. I'd be also happy to meet with any clubs that want to talk about anything. The primary focus of today's meeting is discussing financial practices and fundraising. And this is Spencer Clark of the Harvard Credit Union. He's going to start off with financial practices, and I'll hand it over to him.
Can everyone hear me? Yes? Hey everyone, how's it going? So like Casey said, I work for the credit union, where you guys are all privileged enough to be able to open accounts personally, if you ever have any interest, as well as all the club sports holder accounts with us. I would be the person that you would want to reach out to if you ever have any problems or anything weird going on with your account. I can usually expedite things for you a little bit quicker than if you head into the branches. If you need to make deposits and things like that, please go to the branch though. And so let me start off by asking how many of you have made the sign or change on your club accounts with credit union? Alright, a couple. And is that process fairly easy, guys? Yes? Okay, you can confirm that it's not anything really arduous and that everyone should just get it done as quickly as possible? Yeah? Alright, cool. What I'm going to be going over today real quick, just a little bit of information about the credit union. That's honestly nothing super important. What you should do now that you're going to be, this says leader, you don't need to be a leader, it can be a committee type thing, that's fine. How to get started with your accounts at a credit union, budgeting, some best practices for managing accounts, maintaining financials, that sort of thing. About the credit union, Harvard University Employees Credit Union, member-owned, not-for-profit. We serve exclusively the Harvard community and its affiliates. That's basically us in a nutshell. And I'm privileged enough to work for them. If you ever happen to see my title in an email or something, it has nothing to do with student organizations, but that is one of the things that I take care of. New leader. Now what? Leadership and your responsibilities as an officer. Hopefully you guys have started to, or will be going to, sort of setting goals for what you'd like to do for the upcoming semester, whether that's planning events, getting new equipment, whatever the case happens to be. Hopefully what I'm going to show you here will help you set up a good plan to accomplish those goals. To start off with the real basics, for those of you that have not switched over signers yet, which again I do encourage you to do that as soon as possible, you can do this without having to set foot in the branch if you so prefer. If you go to our website and you go to this specific URL that we have in here, that is a form that we would need you guys to print, fill out, sign, and return to us. You can do it online, you can fax it, or you can go into the branch to have your request completed. What we need from you in addition to that is going to be a copy of your Harvard ID, as well as some sort of government-issued ID, passport, driver's license, state ID, something of that nature. That's totally non-negotiable. Even if you happen to be a member of the credit union already, you're a signer on a different account or something of that nature, we're going to need those no matter what. If you choose to submit it online, I'm going to receive the request. Basically, I'm going to take a look at it to make sure everything is in order. Make sure that the athletics department has told me that you are authorized to be a signer on the account. That's sort of like a key part in that process. And basically, once all of that is in line, I'll go ahead and switch you guys over. However you would like to make the change, I would then ask that you head into the branch, pick up the debit card, issue a new one. You're only allowed one per account. It's going to have your name as well as an acronym for the club on it. You can also request checks if needed. If you need to open a new account for a new team organization, please please don't head into the branch without making an appointment. That's kind of a more time-consuming process. I would ask you that, again, we'll publish this to you, so you'll actually be able to click on that long link. Basically, that's just so you can set up an appointment with a member service rep. It takes about a half hour. So again, you need the IDs. You do need to have your social security number on file and on forms. If you do not have one, it's no big deal. We just need you to fill out another form. All that makes sense? Again, it's not hard. Just do it as quick as you can so we can get everything in order for the semester for you guys. And so that sort of just nuts and bolts type of thing being out of the way. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is sort of just best practices for managing your finances and managing your organizations in general. Hopefully no one forced you into being a sign-up or leader for your team, group, club, however you want to define yourselves. If they did, my apologies, but you're still going to have to deal with this stuff on some level. You might want to involve other members of the organization, even if they're not officers or signers on the account. You never know when someone's dad might be an accountant or something. He could help you out with bookkeeping, maybe not the dad, maybe the student. You want to set a positive example, hopefully, for those that come after you, and also not leave them a huge bookkeeping mess where they don't know what's going on, how much money is around and available to use. One little thing I'll sort of relate to you to that I heard the last time that this presentation was made was a girl in the audience raised her hand and said, "Oh yeah, one of our previous signers, after they had already graduated, left the university, this was a year, 2 years after the fact, something of that nature, said that they found checks totaling about $20,000 in a top drawer. And so that was income that was never realized. Those checks were well stale date at that point, which means they weren't valid for deposit unless you were to go back and actually go to the people that issued the checks and see if they'd be kind enough to give you another one, which they're under no obligation to do if you do happen to do something like that. So that's just sort of like a very concrete example of why you guys should maintain some sort of record-keeping scheme and have some sort of dual control over the accounts. Has anyone had an opportunity to sit down with the previous signers, and have they given you anything?
Yes.
Yes. What did they give you?
Checkbooks and receipts.
Okay. Anything like formally in the register, tracking income and expenses, or anything of that nature? No. So just a big stack of receipts and a checkbook. Was that helpful?
The checkbook was.
Okay. Fair answer. But so again, that sort of just illustrates my point as well, is that just handing over someone a stack of receipts oftentimes is not very useful. Sort of think of it akin to, if you're going to file your taxes, you can't just like send in big water receipts. You need the structure around it to make it valid. Other reasons you should take our advice, absolute pure selfishness on your part. Your name is going to be on these accounts, and so the credit union as well as the athletics department is going to be looking to you if there's anything fishy that goes on with the accounts. Something that we have here as an example of something that may happen that you might want to keep a lid on is someone who might not even be a signer on the account, maybe took the debit card that's attached to it, went and purchased a cake or something like that for an event where it wasn't authorized. So you then have the issue of you have an unauthorized purchase, and maybe you now have a keg for a place where it really shouldn't be, and then you might be assuming the risk and liability for that. And so that is probably not a situation that you want to be in, I'm going to imagine. Setting up a plan. Once you sort of get it off the ground, you put a system in place, it will make less work for you overall. And I would say this is something that's definitely okay to spread around, pull in other people. Are we looking at, what are your positions in your respective clubs? You guys treasurers or just? Treasurer?
Captain, president.
It's
I'm
okay.
hearing other.
Okay. You wanna make friends, not enemies, and make yourself look good. So, something to think along the lines of just as a risk, while transporting organization members to an organization event, van driver has an accident with 2 other vehicles. This was the van driver's 3rd accident in 2 years. Now this could be problematic because maybe you didn't vet this person, maybe as heavily as you should have, didn't look into their background and driving record. You would conceivably be held responsible for something like that, especially if you're the one that authorized the purchase. And so in related to that, say if you authorized the purchase without consulting anybody else, that definitely may become a problem. And so something more so to think of just purely along the lines of expense-wise, be wanting to check yourself, as if you were to host an event and it's canceled, but you put a deposit down on, say, you know, a DJ or something of that nature. So the example we used a couple weeks ago when we were doing this presentation for the house committees was, you know, maybe you just wanna, well, you guys all have computers. Does anyone fancy themselves a MacBook DJ? No? Okay, that's fine. You didn't have to. But you know, maybe you have a friend that has a program or something like that that you could convince to come out for free instead of paying someone. This is directly from the Harvard Student Organization. Harvard University will not be responsible for and must not be made party to or liable for payments of debts and financial obligations entered into by organizations. And again, that's just to reinforce the fact that it is you guys making these decisions. It's your name on all of this stuff. Ideally, you want 2 club officers to handle the finances, just as a system of checks and balances. You want to review your transactions at least monthly. I would counsel that you do it more frequently than that. If you're not reconciling more frequently than that, just check your accounts to make sure that there's no account activity that you aren't aware of. Something that happens quite frequently that is something unexpected, but say you make a deposit for an event from a vendor, someone who's making a donation, something of that nature. You put that money in there, you immediately make a couple purchases, write a couple checks, whatever the case happens to be. That check is returned, and you don't know about it until months later because you didn't check the account. In the meantime, everything that, you know, the checks that you've written have bounced. You're going to incur fees for that. You know, you go to use the debit card, it may be declined. And I think you get the general gist of you should check frequently just to, you know, keep an eye on things and make sure there's nothing weird going on. 2 officers must sign all checks for them to be valid. I don't think it says so on the checks, to be honest with you, but there are 2 signature lines. They are there for a reason. And individual officers should never submit reimbursement checks to themselves. Have 2 other people sign off on it instead. Something again along the lines of just sort of ruling by committee being more useful. Organization officer saw a great price for new equipment online and uses the debit card to purchase it. However, because he didn't want to miss the deal, he didn't communicate with anyone else about it. That could be problematic because maybe he didn't actually find the best price, or maybe in the meantime, people did meet in the committee and decided to purchase the equipment on their own. And then you're left with more stuff than you need, and you might be out of cash.
Question?
Yes.
So me and the treasurer, the 2 people that are planning on signing for, or
sort of just nuts and bolts of the account. I mean, there has to be 2 signers. If there's only 1 signer on account, we won't allow you to perform any transactions. And the maximum is 4 signers, and that's just for our sanity, so 40 people can't come in and claim that they're signers on an account. And like I said before, everyone who's gonna be a signer needs to complete a SIG card, and we need to see their IDs. So what you want to make sure that you have a handle on when you're making the switch over on the accounts, is that you wanna make sure that, the address is someplace that is not, say, like a student's personal mailbox, or something like that. You wanna make sure that you have access to the debit card if you are the designated debit card holder of the group. You want to have access to the checks, and hopefully someone should have turned those over to you. And then you wanna make sure that you're able to get into online banking and everything is set up for you. That's something that when you go, complete the change, again, what I'd counsel you to do is head into the branch. It's just a quick little form that we need you to fill out to get you set up with online access, as well as the debit card. And you would want to, once you have all that in hand, go in and just check your statements, and compare them to, if you have them, the financials that maybe the previous signers would have turned over to you. If you don't have any financials to compare this to, I would still counsel you to go take a look, see what the expenses that the club has, income and revenue streams, just to sort of get an idea of maybe the amounts that you're going to be working with, and that'll be helpful for planning events in the future. And so again, I mean, this is something more so if you have something to compare to, it's very helpful. If you don't, maybe you'll be the first ones to do this. I mean, then it would just be a matter of going back, looking at the statements, saying, oh, I know we hosted an event in May of last year. What were some of the transactions performed against the account? How much did it end up costing? What were we able to take in from that? And so, I mean, as you guys can see from that, that quote there, that it's fairly common that no one has been maintaining financials for a club. Again, we just advocate that you do. It makes everything easier. It makes it so there's not any opportunities for anything funny to happen with the accounts. And so, as a good example, we had one girl from the last time we were here say, our president had everything in order, turned everything over, walked me through what was going on, what was the outstanding debts and everything like that. So that's like the best case scenario. If you guys happened to get that, you're already ahead of the game. And so all of that is related to setting up a budget for yourself and the group. And so living without a budget is like building a house without a foundation. It's very flimsy. And at a certain point, something's going to happen that you're not going to be able to deal with because you're just not going to have a plan for it. You should always maintain a little bit of sort of emergency funds. Just the format should be consistent with the budget. I mean, that's roughly income minus expenses. Whereas you guys are not required to actually submit any financials, this really can be sort of as detailed or as simple as you'd like it to be. An easy way to do it is to look at it on a monthly basis, put together a budget, and then budget individual events. And we have some examples of some forms of what that could look like. And so this is just a real simple format of how you could set up a budget. I mean, again, real simple. It's income minus expenses to give you what your net is. And I mean, again, you could make this way more detailed, way less detailed. Depends on how much or how many events you guys do, how many different vendors you end up using, all of that type of thing. One thing that's very important to keep track of is cash. If you do happen to host an event where we're going to be charging admission and you're going to expect people to pay in cash, either at the door. You just want to have something that's real simply you can put down what came in, so you then have something to reconcile the cash outside of the undergraduate college, that people have real issues with reimbursements. And so this is a sample of a form that you could use that you would want to make members of your organization submit if they're looking for a reimbursement. And it doesn't have to follow this exactly, but as a real firm, you always want a receipt with a reimbursement. What I would suggest you do along those lines is sort of before you get everything up off the ground at the beginning of the semester, take, say, 20 minutes to a half hour, sit down with the officers and members of the group if they're interested. They don't care. I mean, hey, they don't care. It's not their name on the accounts. But to set forth and agree to some sort of just standardized plan for this type of thing, which as to say, you may sit down and say, to get a reimbursement, it needs to be submitted within 2 weeks of the purchase. You need to have a receipt, and you need to have the form filled out detailing what it was for and why the purchase was made. And that's something that will prevent arguments further down the road. If there is ever a case where someone loses a receipt or anything like that, I mean, of course, you can always be nice once and let them get away with it, and then sort of state in no uncertain terms, if you do make a purchase and you don't have a receipt going forward, I'm not going to disperse the funds to you because at the beginning of the semester, you know, you agreed to abide by these rules that we're putting down. Similarly, you could use that to say put caps on spending and say, you know, maybe any purchase over $200, I'm just going to require more than one person to authorize it. Maybe over 500, then you need 3 or 4 people. And maybe larger purchases, you need the organization as a whole to come together and say that, yes, we agree that this is how our money should be spent and we're going to receive some benefit from this. Try not to use PayPal, things like Venmo if you can. That's just because their services, they're not geared towards organizations, they're geared towards individuals. In the PayPal accounts, the way you guys would have to set them up, it's going to be in an individual's name. Does anyone see why that could be a problem? There you go. They could just take it. That's you've enumerated the problem right there, man. You got it. Like that's if only one person's name is on it. Technically, I mean they have full control over it. I've had other people in other areas of the university come to me and say, you know, hey, this is a really active group. Like, how much like money do they have right now to use for this event or something? Because they're looking for additional funds, and I'll say, oh, they have X. And they'll kind of look at me perplexedly and say, well, where's all their money? And the answer to that, a lot of times, unfortunately, is sitting in someone's personal PayPal account, where they're the only ones that have access to it, the only ones that are aware of how much money is actually there. And an issue with those systems in general as well is that, one, your money isn't insured. So if you did happen to park money in PayPal or something like that, you happen to go belly up, which I will say is unlikely, but at the same time it could happen. That money is not insured, you would just lose it. And in relation to that, those services very often put a cap on the transaction amount. So, you know, meaning the transaction amount that you can transfer per day or week or whatever the case happens to be, might be less than the full amount that you need to actually go make a purchase or something of that nature. So there could be a lag. So this is along the lines of looking for reimbursements. We're looking, you know, to make purchases. Who gave the money? Who received it? What was the money for? Where did the event occur? Or the goods shipped? So you have a handle on where things are. Purpose of the money is supporting a goal of the group. Or is this just something that one person kind of just said, hey, I think that's a good when it occurred, and then reimbursement, you know, how did the person originally pay and to have proof of that. Any questions so far? What I'm saying, making sense? I got one person. Anyone else? You can nod. You don't even have to say anything. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Income, always a good thing, right? You want to record it and keep fairly stringent records of it because, hey, I mean, why don't you want to know where your money is? To properly deposit checks, you want to first keep them in a secure location beforehand where no one can get at them, potentially alter them, or just lose them. That might be a problem. And how to endorse that, you want to restrictively endorse them is how we describe it in banking. If you want to say for deposit only, the organization's name, or if it's really long, like an abbreviation's fine, and the member number of the account, and that, so if there's ever a problem with that check for any reason, you're giving the credit union a little bit more to go upon if we have to research something. It makes it a lot easier for us, and in turn that makes it a lot easier for you, because if there is a problem, say with a missing check or something like that, or if it gets deposited into the wrong account, if we can quickly glance at a check and know what account it either should have been put into or was put into because of the number on the back, it's only going to get you your cash back faster if that happens to be an issue. So you want to maintain cash logs. In addition to that, record receipts either in a checkbook, in an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, pen and paper, electronic, doesn't really matter. I would just say as long as you guys do it, that's more of the important thing. You want to reconcile whatever cash receipts to whatever you've deposited into the account. Say monthly. Again, if you do it more than that, it's definitely a good thing. But monthly is for sure an okay time period to reconcile your accounts. One thing that actually I am that ECU teller. I used to work at the Dutchess Street branch, and I used to have students come in all the time and sort of just plunk down a lot of cash, and they would say, I need to make a deposit. And so I am trustworthy. I swear I wouldn't have been at the credit union this long if I wasn't. But in general, that's a bad way to conduct yourself, because you could run across someone who might be less than scrupulous about that. It could very easily skim some cash off that amount if you legitimately have no idea how much is there. So just count your money is the easiest thing to take away from that. Establish, again, and this is something you want to do in advance, establish a process to review and pay bills, at least monthly, maybe do it quicker than that if you can. Don't pay with cash because it's just not as good of a record of that transaction. Review vendor invoices and receipts prior to making the payment to make sure that everything that they're billing you for is accurate. Keep copies of it so you can refer back to it if need be. Record checks in the checkbook, again, or in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, so you know what the amount is when you wrote it. And basically, because if you write that check and you're sort of not accounting for it in the balance that you have in your account, and you're making purchases and that person didn't cash that check, they can present it for deposit or for cashing when you won't have funds in the account. In which case, the check will bounce. You guys will be charged a fee. Probably that person's financial institution will charge them a fee. They're probably going to be mad at you because they most likely want their money for whatever they did for you. And then reconcile all checks and all transactions in general that you have reported to your monthly bank statement. Again, along the lines, just keep solid records, update them. Here's that quote there. Found a bunch of checks, never able to realize that money and what they could have done with it, which is unfortunate. to make payments. That is a very sort of easy way to almost combine record keeping and payments in sort of one fell swoop, as the transaction that you'll see in your online banking will have a little bit more detail to it, because the credit union is going to know who you wanted that payment to go to, what the address was, what the amount is, things of that nature. Again, deposit checks can be returned, and that's why you just want to check online banking frequently. At least once a week, just log on, just take a look. You don't have to really dive into it that deeply, but just check the balance, make sure that it's roughly where you think it should be. And also to monitor the account for fraud. Sure you guys see on the news just as well as anyone else. There's always a lot of data breaches going on. So you may be the victim of fraud really through no fault of your own, but just because you happen to frequent merchant or use a credit card processor who got hacked. So you should just always check. There's no bigger thing than that really. You should limit ATM card usage when possible, especially using it at an ATM to withdraw cash. And again, just because lack of paper trail, no ability to confirm the authorized transaction. You just don't have any ability to keep track of what's being spent on it. If someone has the card who's not supposed to, or someone who has taken it upon themselves to make purchases. And just along the lines relating to the debit card, you're limited to $1,000 in cash withdrawals per day, or any PIN-based transaction, and $3,000 per swipe credit-based transaction. So if you ever needed to make a purchase larger than that, you either want to use a check or online bill pay. And these are tips from HBS, which they set the gold standard for maintaining student organizations. They have the most stringent bookkeeping you could ever imagine. It's often fairly scary, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm a little bit in awe of what they have to answer to on a monthly basis. Use online bill pay whenever possible. Makes record keeping easier. Keep a running spreadsheet of all transactions. Again, this goes back to the planning ahead. Set and communicate guidelines around spending and reimbursements. Establish a time. Again, you can do it monthly if that's what works for you, but establish a regular time where you're going to pay bills, write checks, and update all of your bookkeeping records. And use reimbursement forms for reimbursement requests. So you want a budget, and also one thing I'll say to you guys, if any of you are completely like, I don't know how to budget, man, like I have no idea what you're talking about, and you'd like to sit down with me, one of my coworkers, we are certified educators in personal finance, and so we can sit down with you and go over the basics of building a budget and bookkeeping if you need it a little bit more in depth than what I'm throwing at you here. So you want to manage your risk. That's just having control over the funds, as well as having control, over what happens at events and things like that. You want documentations for people that are requesting money from you. You want some sort of reconciliation. Monthly is okay. You probably want to do it more frequently than that, and utilize online banking. You can always come in to the Dunster Street branch if you need to make a deposit, or you need something quick that you think maybe they could take care of. You can call our contact center. If you're ever, you can just ask for me. My name's Spencer. You'll know who you're talking about. You can send an email to HBCU. This is an student_orgs to harvard.edu. That's an email that me and a few other people in my department monitor. We'll usually respond to you within 24 hours if you have some sort of issue that you need us to address. If it happens to be a time when there's a bunch of snow days or anything like that, please give us maybe a couple days extra just to catch up. But other than that, that's really what I have to lay down before you today. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Do we have to pay taxes? We're
No.
a nonprofit. Why
Well, one, you guys are classified as a nonprofit, in.
We don't even have to like file taxes?
Oh, no, yeah, there's nothing along those lines that you need to do.
Okay,
You get away easy.
okay.
Okay. Anything else? No? Yes?
How do we get a tax exemption from the paper thing?
So the athletics office should have that on file someplace,
Yeah, we should be able to get
Yeah.
it from the finance office.
yeah, and so basically it's,
Student organizations have to apply for tax status.
The university has that.
Yeah, we need, let us get back to you, double
I
check.
think there's one tax bill, although the
I-
entire university.
I think so, I think so.
I just learned something.
Yeah, so, but yes, so they'll look into it and they'll get back to you on that one.
And different states have tax exemption.
Oh, yes, that actually is one thing that, came up recently, if I remember correctly. That tax exemption, I believe, is only valid in Massachusetts. I want to say. So if you are making purchases that you think, that would be applicable to, try to do it in state, if you can.
If you wanna just send me an email, I'll get back to you.
All right, well, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me today. If you know anything crops up that you think of that, please feel free to shoot me an email.
Thanks. So now we're gonna hear from Jennifer Downing, our Assistant Director of Athletics and Stewardship, and she works a lot with alumni relations. So she is going to talk about fundraising. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so as Casey said, I work in the athletics department and I'm also the liaison with the development office. So where Spencer just talked to you about budgets and paying bills, I'm here to talk about how you bring money in to have money in your accounts. How many of you are new officers with your clubs? A few of you, but most of you have probably been to this presentation before. Not your heads. Okay. We'll try and go quickly. I don't have too many slides here, and please raise your hand at any time if you have questions. Talk a little bit about leadership and what your role is as part of this organization, why it's important to have good record keeping. Spencer's already hinted upon that. Why communications is so important. A little bit about soliciting and how you actually make the ask to get a gift for your club, and why thanking is so important. So leadership, it's pretty obvious, but you are a student-run organization, so you are really the ones in charge of your funds, the money that comes in, the money that goes out. And obviously, as students graduate and as people take on different roles within the organization, there is transition. So the best thing for you to do is to be consistent and hand over records similarly to sharing the checkbooks and the records from the previous officer to the new officer. The second people that are involved in your organization are your alumni. And for some of you who have new clubs that have only been around 1 or 2 years, you probably don't have a whole lot of alums who participated previously. But as your club continues to grow, you have a community of people who have either participated on your teams or who are supportive of your activities. And those are people that you can go back to and hopefully ask to support your efforts. Record keeping, it's really important to maintain your rosters, to keep an accurate list of everyone who's participated on your teams. I know Casey is really the contact for you, and she will ask at the end of the season for you to submit your roster. And we use those lists of participants to track in our alumni database, so that if you ever wanted to know 10 years from now, all the people who ever played Ultimate Frisbee or who played club soccer, we would have a list of all of those, but it's based on your roster. So if you don't give us those lists of names, we will never know who was on your team. And then the students 10 years from now who are trying to fundraise won't know who to ask. So it's really important to try and maintain those records and to share everything that you have with Casey at the end of the season or whenever she asks for it. And And again, that's helping you build your alumni base, and we understand the first few years when your club is in existence, you're not gonna have a very long list, but as it grows, your group grows. Communicating is really important, and there are different opportunities for you to reach out to your fans, your family and friends, your alumni throughout the season. The first obvious time to reach out would be preseason. You're getting ready to start competition. You can share who's on the team, who are you excited about competing against? Are you going anywhere new that you haven't before? Do you have any big key matchups? Certainly at the end of your season, recapping how it went. Was it a great year? Did you have any great victories or particular challenges you might have overcome? And then throughout the season, as the season is going along, talking about specific events, maybe you're gonna have an alumni weekend or a tailgate or a reception before a game, or you really wanna get people to come out to a specific event. Communicate that, let people know. Sharing any key news, and then obviously sharing the results of the games. You don't have to do it after every single game, but people like to hear, how's the team doing? And there are different ways to do that. Social media, I'm sure you're more adept than I am, and probably know of many ways to share beyond email, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things. But the more you communicate, the better. And people want to feel that they're a part of your group. So share the good things, share the bad things, and they'll want to be a part of your group. Soliciting, really important. If you want to have gifts, you need to ask. And certainly, as Spencer talked about, you have an annual budget. You know, to a certain extent, what your needs are going to be. You're probably going to have some travel. You're probably going to have uniforms or equipment. You may need food. You may need vans. You may need any number of things. And so having a budget and planning in advance, knowing what you're going to need and when you might need to spend to buy those items, will also inform you when you should ask for those gifts. And as I say here, participation is more important than the actual dollar amount. So when you're reaching out to your friends, your alums, the former players, just getting them to give anything, $5 or $10 is better than nothing. And then they feel that they're a part of your group and they're giving back. So don't emphasize the dollar amount, it's just the fact that they're involved. And we really have 3 key times of year when it's a great opportunity to ask. The first being the tax year. So the calendar year 2014 ended on December 31st. We're now in calendar year 2015, ending December 31st. So quite a few people will give at the end of December so that they can get tax credit. Second time of year would be the academic year, or really the fiscal year. So obviously the academic year is September to May. Our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30. And so you'll see a lot of alumni, particularly alumni who are in reunion year, who are giving in May and June, leading up to that June 30th date. And they're giving in that time period because they're trying to get credit for their reunion. So all alumni who graduated from Harvard, from the college, every 5 years have their reunion. So this year, the class is ending in 0s and 5s. So class of 15 is obviously graduating. Class of 2010 is having their 5th reunion. As they give, leading up to their reunion, they get recognized as part of their reunion for gifts. And a key saying in our area of work is that fundraising is really friend raising. It's about establishing relationships, having an engagement between your alums, your friends, your fans, having them feel that they're a part of something, and that in turn will hopefully prompt them to give. Major needs. So in addition to your annual gifts and just your general budget that you have every year, you may on occasion have a need for something that's more substantial. Perhaps your team has qualified for nationals or some big competition that's more expensive than just driving across town. Maybe you need to buy plane tickets. Maybe you need to buy new equipment that's gotten old and is in need of repair. And now is another opportunity to ask. But then it's really important to be specific about what you need and why. Because if you just send a blanket statement, we need your support, please give, it's not very compelling. So you can say specifically, we're so excited, the team just qualified for X, it's gonna cost us X amount of money, please help. That's a little bit more exciting and hopefully you'll generate some interest. Questions?
Have teams ever created a registry, like for a wedding or something? Is that something you could do?
It's an interesting idea. The question would be how the funds funnel through us.
Are you talking about for specific items?
Like, when people are getting married, they create a registry where they're looking
Right.
for certain items and looking for people to buy them certain things.
So like equipment and.
You might be able to create a registry of sorts saying kind of here are some of our needs and at different levels, and you could have people pledge, say, okay, I'm gonna get you the, $50 gold posts or whatever. But they're not, and then in order for them to actually give the gift, they're gonna have to go either write a check or go through our Go Crimson site. But that might be an opportunity to show everyone else, here are our lists of needs, and here's what's been claimed, and here's what's still available to give. But I'll get my next slide talks about when it actually comes to making the gift, it's gotta come through Harvard. But that's a very good question. Any other questions? I'll stop. Thank you. Please plan ahead, obviously, as you're leading up to your budget process. You may not know that you're gonna make nationals or you're gonna need that equipment until the last minute, but the more in advance you can be in touch with your donors and your alums, the better. And certainly, it's easier to have that conversation about getting support if you know your community, if you have a relationship in advance. So that's when it's great to reach out to the alums that may have graduated just a few years ago, who may still know you and feel more connected to the team. Obviously, they just graduated, may not have a whole lot of money, but they may know people who have money. So use those relationships. Don't feel badly talking to people in your houses, people in your classes. It doesn't have to be someone who's been on the team previously. And here's where we talk about different ways to give. The first and probably easiest way is to give online. So it's to go to the Go Crimson website, and I'll walk you through it just so that you see what it looks like. There we go. Okay. So we're gonna go back. So here is the Go Crimson webpage. And on this page, it's actually in the bottom right corner, but in most screens, it's gonna be in the top right. You click on Support Athletics. And then as you go down here, you see a link to Give Online. And this will take you to the online gift site. And this link is one that you can actually, when you're sending out your newsletters or emails to your group, you can use this specific link. You don't have to go to the 2 previous steps, but I just wanted to show you. So you indicate the amount that you want to give, and then you select Club Sports. And then within Club Sports, you find your team. So there is a general Club Sports fund here, and then there are different accounts set up for all of the different clubs. If you don't see your club listed here, it means that your club has never received a gift before. We can set up a fund so that you show up in this list. So if you have someone who wants to give to your club and you're not listed here, please let Casey know and we'll work to get you listed here. And then people can write comments. They can set it up as a recurring gift. They enter all their information about they themselves as the donor, their credit card information. Pretty self-explanatory. So that's the easiest way to give, is just to direct people to this online site, have them select your club, everything's good. Yep.
So I didn't see my club name listed there, and
Okay.
we haven't had donations, but we've had people time like swim meets and stuff, and it always says money will be deposited into your friend's account. So where does that money actually go?
It's a good set. It's in there. So there are different ways that you can receive gifts. You can receive gifts from individual donors that are either coming in online or through checks. Or as you indicate, work at the Ivy swim meet timing next weekend or the track, PEPS meet in 2 weeks, and what you would earn as a work study, amount will be directly deposited into your fund, so it doesn't go through the system, but it will show up. So, and it's a good reminder, because I think all of the presidents or captains should have received an email from Aaron in our department talking about the swim meet and the track meet. So those are 2 opportunities for you as students to be paid to work those events, and the money will go directly into your club account. So it's as if you had a work study job for a couple hours. So we can send you more info.
For all kind of listening to the 501c3 and nonprofit side, is that the gifts also tax deductible for the donors, so that hopefully.
So yes, so people will receive, tax acknowledgement from Harvard saying that they have donated to a nonprofit organization. And they will receive, if they are a Harvard alum themselves, they will receive class credit or parents fund credit as well. And that's all done by the university, so you won't know that a gift has come into your account until you get the monthly gift report, which I think is my next slide. So that's how to give online. The other way to give is by check. And so we ask that people make the checks payable to Friends of Club Swimming, I'm making it up, Friends of Taekwondo, fill in the blank. And those checks get deposited through the varsity club or through Casey. And the key thing here is that the checks have to come through Harvard first to be recognized as a donation to the university. Please do not deposit your checks directly into your credit union account. Not a good idea, because they will not be seen as a donation to the club. They have to go through Harvard first. Or if people don't want to give you the checks directly, they can mail them directly to Harvard. So the address is here, we'll send out the slides afterwards. So the address is at the Varsity Club in the Merr Center, or you can drop off the checks to Casey if they happen to hand them to you directly. And as Spencer mentioned, timely delivery is crucial. Please don't let those checks sit in a drawer for 2 years. Usually most checks are valid for 60 days and then they expire. So if you happen to forget about it, not great. Because then you would have to go back to the donor and say, so sorry, I lost your check, I forgot to deposit it. It's no longer good, can you reissue it? And if people are giving the end of December around the end of the calendar year and they mail it, hopefully they don't mail it to you, hopefully they mail it directly to Harvard, but if they mail it to you, please hold on to the envelope because it has a date stamp on it and we need proof that it came in that calendar year. That's probably not gonna happen, but. And then once you receive a gift, it's time to thank people. And so Casey runs a monthly gift report that shows you all of the gifts that have come into your club account. And she has the list of leaders who are receiving those monthly emails. If you have new officers or new captains, new leaders, please make sure she has those list of names, otherwise you won't be getting these reports. And this is really helpful for you. And it's important to thank all of your donors. The smallest gifts are still important. So we have kind of a tiered approach to thanking people. We suggest for your smallest gifts, a simple email is probably sufficient. Thank you for your gift, means so much to the team. If they gave it for a specific purpose, you can mention, you know, it's terrific, we're gonna be able to go buy X, or, you know, we're really excited about the season. Maybe the next level up, so a slightly larger gift, you might want to write a handwritten note. It's a little bit more special than sending an email. And the gift reports that Casey sends out will have the address information, so you will have the email and the mailing address of the donors. Unless they're confidential, then we'll figure out how to do that. And if you have a really awesome gift that comes in at a pretty significant level, you might want to give them some sort of team keepsake swag, whether it's a photo, a hat, a scarf, something special to make them feel extra happy about having donated. We leave it up to you, because for some teams, a $100 gift might be a really big deal. Some teams might be getting $5,000 gifts. That's a big deal. So leave it up to you, but please thank your donors, and please thank them sooner rather than later, because your best donors are your current donors. So you want to make them feel special, they're part of your team. And if you thank them 2 months after they gave a gift, they don't feel so good about having supported you. And final reminders, this is my last slide, so I've been pretty fast. Student-run organization, you're part of the larger athletic department. We have 66 clubs right now, and we have 42 varsity teams. So it's a huge community, and we're all responsible for this larger community. Fundraising is important, stewardship is important, communicating regularly and being clearly about what your needs are and why it's important. And we're all here to support you. So Casey's in the Mercer Center lobby, Gary's across the hall from Casey. I'm upstairs on the 3rd floor, and I'm happy to meet with any of you. Email in person, you can send me emails, phone calls. I'm happy to talk about fundraising strategy and kind of how to craft a message, kind of how do you ask for money? Because I know it's awkward, and it's especially awkward if you're trying to ask your friends. We can come up with a plan, your communication plan for the year, and figure out the time of year that makes sense for you. You might be a spring sport, you might be a fall sport. You might change your leaders halfway through the year and figure out how to be consistent. So we're here to help you. We want you to be successful. We want you to have great seasons. And money will help you do that, but you want to be good stewards of it. So are there any questions? Otherwise, thank you for all you do. I know it's been a tough